What is up gamers? In this video, we'll be going over tips and tricks for every hit scan DPS. If you don't know what hit scan means, all of the DPS we're covering will be listed on the screen now. Before we get into the video though, if you want to be a pro hit scan player and climb up the ranks super easily, make sure you go over to GameLeap.com where we have tons of different guides for all different heroes where we have new ones coming out every single day. Make sure that you sign up now and take advantage of this so that you can easily rank up. Alright, let's talk about hit scan. This means that if your crosshair is on a target's hitbox and you fire, it will always hit. There's no need to lead your shots or anything like that. Even though Sojourn's primary fire isn't hit scan, she is going to be included in this video because of her secondary fire, which is. Now first up we have Ashe. One big thing that you have to worry about with Ashe is making sure that you are reloading your ammo as often as possible. Anytime before a fight or mid-fight where you have downtime, practice checking your current ammo or just practice hitting the reload button whenever you go around a corner or to try and heal. It's very important that you have full ammo going into a fight or when you're taking duels, as having to reload can be a very big issue. One thing about Ashe is that when you're unscoped, her damage with her primary fire is going to be less than if you were scoped in. So you might want to try using your scoped in shots whenever enemies are closer to you or far away instead of just spamming with those unscoped shots doing less damage. This is especially useful if you have lower ammo in your clip. One thing you could do before you're about to reload is either with your last bullet or with one bullet reloaded, you could throw your dynamite out, hit the enemies with it with that last bullet, and then reload fully so that the enemies have to heal themselves instead of being able to push onto you whenever you're reloading. One last tip for Ashe is that whenever you're playing versus dive, especially Monkey or Genji, playing on the low ground near high grounds can be a very easy way to bait them into using their movement abilities to where you can use your coach gun to jump up onto the high ground while being able to focus them down. Next up, Bastion has the highest DPS in the game when using his assault configuration. It's up to 360 DPS against unarmored targets, and the easiest way to get big value with his ability is to bait the enemy tank out of cover towards your team. Then you can use your assault configuration to easily burst them down while they retreat away from you. If the enemy tank uses their movement ability to go in, then you should have a very easy time finishing them off with your assault configuration. Bastion's grenade ability can actually be used on the ground under him to bounce him across ledges or onto higher ground. This can be very useful as well to help escape dives against certain heroes. The one downside with Cassidy's kit is that his magnetic grenade has a very short range. As Cassidy, you really want to be positioning further away from the enemies than most heroes, as his damage fall off starts from pretty far away, so you should be able to easily position further than most heroes would. But this means you're not going to be hitting as many magnetic grenades, and this is the main goal. You don't want to be using your magnetic grenade constantly, because if you are, then you're going to be close enough for the enemies to retaliate whenever they get hit by it. And if they're close enough to retaliate from a magnetic grenade, it's very likely that you are not going to be able to escape, or if you are able to escape, then your teammates should be with you. When you're playing Cassidy, try to use your magnetic grenade defensively when enemies push or dive you instead of aggressively. You should try to not use your roll aggressively either unless you know that you can easily grab elimination with it without dying yourself. Your roll should mainly be used to either reload safely and continue fighting, or to back away or reposition mid-fight. Cassidy's ultimate can actually be really hard to get value out of, and honestly getting one elimination out of it can be super useful. So if you see a Lucio in your backline that you just can't hit, you could solo ult him. It'll be funny and probably tilt him, which is a win-win. Reaper is mostly a close range hero, so you'll have to get really good at sneaking up on enemies, or you can teleport behind them, which is my favorite way of sneaking up on them. You could very easily teleport behind enemies or above them and then quickly drop down on top of them to deal massive damage before you Wraith form out or getting support from your teammates. One thing you never want to do with your Wraith form is not Wraith forming into the enemies, as that's going to be your main defensive cooldown, and 90% of the time they'll have something waiting for you as soon as you come out of it. When you're teleporting behind enemies or above them, you need to make sure that you're doing it with some cover. If you teleport directly behind the enemy Ana, she's going to hear you and land a super easy sleep dart. So make sure that you're teleporting to the side of cover or above cover, making sure that even if she hears you, you'll still be able to dodge that sleep dart, or you could force her away from her current position really easily, stopping her from healing. Soldier 76 can deal huge burst damage with his Helix rocket, and the easiest way to get value out of his Helix rockets is to shoot them at the feet of squishy heroes. One of my favorite things to do is actually take long range duels with heroes like Hanzo or Widowmaker, where they want to go behind a wall and then peek out and shoot once and then go back behind the wall. You can easily pre-fire a rocket before they walk out, directly hit them with the rocket as they peek out to take their shot, and then all you have to do from there player is land like 3 or 4 shots to finish them off. You can also do this super easily on supports like Ana that like to stand still in the enemy backline. You could simply run around on a short flank and shoot your rocket at the enemy Ana standing still, finish her off, and then immediately run back to your team. When using Soldier's ultimate, you have to be careful that the enemy team does not have super easy counters like full Diva Matrix or Reinhardt's shield. You really want to try and focus down these heroes and either demech Diva or break Reinhardt's shield before you pop your ultimate so that you can get a lot more value. Sojourn's primary fire is a projectile, and the longer that you hold down your primary fire, the larger the spread gets. So when enemies are further away, it can be a lot better to use your primary fire in smaller bursts so that you can actually charge up your energy. Speaking of energy, Sojourn is all about charging up her energy so that she can use her secondary fire beam to either easily one-shot supports in DPS or dealing huge damage. I see so many people holding their secondary fire for the perfect moment, but you really don't need to. Sojourn isn't all about just one-shotting with that beam because she can deal up to 130 damage with 100% charge. This means that you only need 70% charge to actually deal 200 damage on an enemy headshot. So if you're 1v1ing a 200 HP hero, you could shoot them at like 50% charge most of the time and they'll be low enough to either finish off with 1 or 2 more shots, or they'll just be outright dead as you have to deal damage to them to actually get charged, so there's no point in trying to charge to 100% in a duel. Sombra is going to rely mostly on her positioning to get the most value out of her. Make sure that when you're playing Sombra and you're going for hacks, that you aren't standing in a super easy spot to force out after you hack the enemy. When you hack somebody as Sombra, you really want to be following up by uncloaking and damaging them as much as you possibly can so that either you or a teammate can finish them off. I see tons of Sombra players hack a support only to be instantly forced to translocate because the enemy team turned around and did a little bit of damage to her. The easiest way to get more value out of your hacks is to position around cover as you hack so that you can easily run back and forth on the corners of the cover. This allows you to easily put out a lot more damage on the enemy and stay in the fight much longer. Tracer is similar to Sombra, where you really want to be staying in fights longer so that you can easily finish heroes off in the fight. With Tracer having 3 blinks, you always want to have at least one available to escape. Using your blinks to get to the enemies should only be used when you're chasing a target or you're trying to land a pulse bomb. Most of the time, it's very simple to walk all the way into the enemy's flank, then starting to use your blinks to reposition yourself around cover while poking at enemies. It's important that you realize that you don't have to one-clip the enemy Zen player or even kill him in the first engagement that you take. You can damage him some, then fall back to a health pack or cover, continue to annoy and poke at him, and just wait for an opportunity. Not only does this take the other support's attention off of their tank and other teammates as well, the Zen player's attention is also focused on you. So the enemy team now has 2 supports that are distracted while your team has no supports distracted, and you can very easily open up opportunities for not only yourself but your teammates that can easily exploit it. Now last on the list we have Widowmaker. For Widowmaker there are 3 big breakpoints that you have to know about whenever you're killing enemy DPS/healers. At 45% you deal 150 damage with a headshot, at 63% you deal 200, and at 82% you will deal 250 with 100% meaning 300 damage. These 3% are going to be quite difficult to actually notice in game, but it gives you a good idea that you don't actually have to be fully charged to be useful as Widowmaker. You can easily try and quickscope tracers with a headshot at less than 50% because they won't expect it. Even if it doesn't kill them, it will force their recall if you deal more than half of their health. The biggest thing though for Widowmaker is making sure that you have a good position, preferably on a high ground or a very long range angle where the enemies have to cross to get to the objective. When you're playing attack as Widowmaker, try taking short flank angles or big flanks even to get line of sight onto the enemy support and then get a pick during a fight, quickly grappling back towards your team and then surviving. All you have to do after getting 1 or 2 picks as Widowmaker is survive. If you get an aggressive pick, then you die, the enemies will have that trade and you'll be less likely to win the fight. And lastly for Widowmaker, don't underestimate her machine gun's damage. At close range, it actually has similar DPS to Soldier 76, so don't try and force scope shots at a close range if you're not comfortable with them. Thank you all for watching the video, and we will cover the rest of the DPS another day, so make sure that you tune in, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure that you check out our Overwatch 2 website. It is constantly being updated with new guides on every single hero, so make sure that you check out the website link right now in the description or go to GameLeap.com and sign up today.